Hey guys, today I'm going to be bringing you my manga review of Death Note. Death Note. So Death Note is a manga series written by Sugumi Oba with art by Takeshi Obata. It was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump from 2003 to 2006. The story follows high school student Light Yagami, who is one of the top students in Japan. This guy is super smart, however he is completely bored out of his mind. Now his boredom is also shared with Ryuk, who is a Shinigami, lives in the Shinigami realm. Now one day Ryuk decides he wants to make his life a bit more interesting, so he purposely drops his Death Note into the human realm. Now the Death Note is a notebook that the Shinigami use to kill humans by writing in their names, and doing this extends their lives so they can become immortal. Now one day, just by pure luck, Light Yagami finds Ryuk's Death Note, which he dropped. Inside the notebook are rules written by Ryuk on how to use it. So basically, once you write someone's name in this notebook, they will die of a heart attack in 40 seconds. However, you need to know their name and their face. However, you can also control the way that these people will die by manipulating their actions before their death and setting their time of death. Now, Light, being someone who is super intelligent, quickly dismisses it as a joke. However, his curiosity gets the better of him, and when he sees someone has taken hostages on the news, he decides to write that person's name in the notebook, and 40 seconds later, he dies of a heart attack. Realizing that the Death Note's powers are real, Light decides that he is going to rid the world of everyone who is rotten. A few days later, Ryuk shows up in front of Light and explains to him that now that he has used the notebook, Ryuk must stay with him until he dies. Ryuk finds it very interesting that Light has used the notebook more than any other person who has ever had one, and this is where Light explains to Ryuk that he is planning to become the god of a new world without any crime. The ironic thing though is that Light wants to make a world without crime, and the way he does this is by killing hundreds of people. Now eventually people start to notice that hundreds of criminals are dying. The public gives Light the new nickname of Kira, which means killer. And as you would imagine, with all these people dying, the police are trying to do something about it. So they get one of the world's best detectives, only known as L, to help them find Kira. Now, similar to Light, L is a genius, and he quickly discovers that Kira is hiding out somewhere in Japan. So a division of the Japanese police, known as the Task Force, is created, and now it is up to them, along with L, to discover who Kira is and bring him to justice. Now, already most of you know what Death Note is. It is an incredibly popular manga series. Many people have either read it or seen the anime, and there's a very good reason for that, because this story is incredible. From the very beginning, it is just super engaging, and you always want to know what is going to happen next. I mean, even though I'd already seen the anime when I read this manga, I just found it super hard to put down, because even though I knew what was going to happen for the most part, I'm like, oh god, it's so good, I gotta keep reading it. There are a lot of mind games going on between Kira and L, and how they try to figure out who each other are. And there are just a lot of crazy things that happen between these two, as you see just what lengths they will go to discover each other. And also, for only 12 volumes, a lot of things happen in this series. I mean, a lot. This series has the most text in pretty much any manga I have read that is only like 12 volumes. Recently I sat down and binge read about 10 volumes of Bleach, and I say in the amount of time that I finished those, I could have maybe read 2 volumes of Death Note. And this isn't to say the story is slow or boring, it is the exact opposite. You can just not put it down, but it just takes forever to read. And it just goes to show you how much this series benefits from having 2 people working on it. Because Sugumi Oba wasn't doing the art in this series, he could focus greatly on the story and making the writing super entertaining. It is also an incredibly smart series, as the main characters are pretty much geniuses. Everything is just super complex, and it's just so interesting. It's also a very unpredictable series because things happen all the time. A bunch of plot twists come up where, you know, the course of the series just completely changes. It's crazy. Although I'm not going to act like it's a masterpiece, because there is one problem with this story that myself and a lot of other people have. In fact, in pretty much every review for Death Note you'll watch, watch or read, everyone pretty much has the same problem. Because eventually in this story, around volume 7, a major event happens, and after that, the story doesn't quite live up to the first part. Now, that is not to say it is bad. On the contrary, the entire story is just super, super good. However, this last part of the story isn't quite as good as before. And that is mainly because some new characters get introduced who aren't really as interesting, and some things happen that seem a bit too convenient. Now, it's really hard to talk about this without going into spoilers, but most of you have probably already seen or read Death Note and you know what I'm talking about. But if you are planning on getting into Death Note, don't let what I said stop you, because it is still very worth it. Just the ending part isn't quite as good as the first part. And while I don't think the ending of this series was perfect and the best way it could have been handled, I still really enjoyed it. Now, as for the character part of this review, I thought Light Yagami was an amazing character. Don't get me wrong, I didn't think he was a good guy, because he is clearly an evil mastermind. And it's very rare that the main character of a series is actually the villain, which makes it super fresh and interesting. What's also interesting is how similar Light is to L, the detective who is trying to take him down. The way they both think is very similar, and it just makes it, like I said before, very entertaining to watch them track each other down. We also have Ryuk, who is the Shinigami that only Light can see as he follows him around. Now, Ryuk is a very sarcastic character, and he's on no one's side. He just wants to sit there and watch what happens, so he does not intend to help L or Light or anyone who gets in their way. Now, like I said, some more characters get introduced later on, some of which are very interesting, some of which aren't really that interesting, and when they die or whatever happens to them, you're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. But I'd say this series is completely worth it just to see the mind games that happen between L and Light. The two of them really make this series great. So now let's talk about the art by Takeshi Obata. Now, I've already praised his art when I did my All You Need Is Kill review. Now, All You Need Is Kill came out like over a decade before Death Note started, and I said you could really see the experience in his drawings because he's been doing this for so long. But even back in Death Note, which was one of his first major works, his art is just incredible. And like I said before, this manga really benefits from having two people working on it, because while Oba is focusing on the story, Obata can focus all of his time into the artwork, which looks very good. The characters look very realistic. This is not a cartoony manga by any stretch of the imagination. The way he draws the hair in particular on some of these characters is very nuts. It's all detailed. They got all the hair going all over the place. I mean, here, just look on the cover of this book. We see Light here, and his hair is nuts. So yeah, this series has very good art, very detailed, very well drawn. Takeshi Obata is a very, very good artist who deserves all the credit in the world. So that was my review of Death Note, and I had to say it was such an enjoyable series. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed almost every minute of the ride, and I give it 4.5 potato chips out of 5. Now, as of right now, the entire manga series of Death Note is in print and available from Viz in the single volumes as well as the black editions, which are 2-in-1s. There's also a box set available which contains the first 12 volumes as well as a bonus guidebook. Now, the price of the box set pretty much matches the price of all the 6 2-in-1s, so really just choose whatever you would like. Now, I got the whole series in the 2-in-1s for a very good deal, which I will talk about in my next manga pickups video. However, I do have to praise Viz for these 2-in-1s. They are very, very good quality, and I would definitely recommend them if you are into reading, the larger volumes. As you are probably aware, there was also an anime adaptation of Death Note done by Studio Madhouse, one of my favorite anime studios. It's 37 episodes long, and it's pretty much a shot-for-shot adaptation. The only things I noticed that were a bit different were a few minor details in the end, but other than that, it is a very good anime series that you should definitely check out if you are not planning on reading the manga. There have also been 3 live-action movies that have been produced in Japan. I have not seen them, so I can't tell you if they are good or not, but they exist. There's also an American live-action Death Note in the works done by Warner Brothers. I have no idea if that movie will ever even come out or what it's going to be like, but it's a thing. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching my review of Death Note. If you have read Death Note, then you can comment your thoughts on the series below, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks for my review of Full Metal Alchemist.